Hello, back part 2. So in part 2, I'm not going to be covering the technical matters anymore, as I covered them in detail in part 1. All we're going to do now in part 2, we're going to summarize the cycles that are showing us the 10th of October as the day of the crash. Okay? So in the previous video, I explained only one of these. In the previous video, I highlighted the 10th of October, and I explained why. The price also, I already explained in the previous video. If you want to know why we dipped so low, all the way to 102k, you have to watch the previous video. The whole first part of the previous video, of part 1 video, explains exactly why we got to that price, and explains exactly why it was not possible to predict that before it happened. Okay, so these are the pivots now for going forward. Now I need to do a bit of forecasting. We're not going to be just analyzing why we didn't manage to predict that. So going forward, the eclipse cycle is giving us this information that we're heading for a top on the 18th, between 16th of 18th. That's the prediction of the eclipse cycle. In terms of the whole of October, after we've done that dip, you can see the eclipse cycle doesn't have much red. It's saying here a bottom between 16 or 17 possible, a local bottom, and from there on it's all green. In terms of eclipse cycle, the eclipse cycle is quite bullish. Last 4 years of this section here, between the 16th, even between the 15th of October and the 18th of October, has been all green. So today is a very serious invalidation of this eclipse cycle. The eclipse cycle is always the most important cycle that is predicting the price action. However, we always need to monitor for invalidations. At the moment, we are very far from closing on a green. Let me have a look where we are. Yeah, we're very far from closing on a green today. So that is why I have developed other cycles. Otherwise, if the eclipse cycle is always accurate, then I don't need to do anything else. I can just be looking at the eclipse cycle. So look at that, 4 previous years in a row, we get 4 daily time frames that are green, and today it refuses to be green. Okay. So now I'm moving. So this is the prediction that this cycle is making. 18th of October top, right? And then making a bottom on 24th of October. That's the prediction. And you get it here on the fractal. This is the main fractal. This is the bottom. 24th, 25th. You know, when you're pasting fractals, sometimes deviate with 1 day. So this is 25th. This is pointing to 25th of October. We have 2 cycles pointing to 25th of October bottom. But keep in mind that by the table it is 24th of October bottom. It's just the pasting of the cycle have created deviation with 1 day. And then we're looking at the invalidation. We're paying attention to why today is invalidated. Then could it be that we're not really following that eclipse cycle? This eclipse cycle was followed quite well after this invalidation here in September. We should have had a bottom here on the 29th of September. That was my forecast. 29, 30th, that was the real bottom that should have taken place. It didn't take place then. But after that it got in line in October. It was all valid. You can just draw horizontal lines here, and you can see that on most daily time frames we were performing exactly the same, evidenced in that table that I showed you on this side. These are different calculations, but from 1st of October you will see here. I covered all of that in previous video. I really hate when I do two parts, but unfortunately my phone got disconnected, so I have to do part 2. Okay, so we cannot expect that this eclipse cycle will follow exactly the previous. It gets valid for some time, then it gets invalidated, and that's how it goes. In October, it has been very valid, and I proved that in the previous video, right? You need to watch the previous video for that. And now the bottom that it made on the 10th of October, it made the bottom closely in that week on 1st of May previously. Okay, and then it goes up. That's it. It's making a top here equivalent to the 18th of October. That's the prediction by the eclipse cycle. So I could have just closed this video and say, look, it has been very accurate for October. That's your prediction. But unfortunately, because it got invalidated on the 15th, I have to look at other cycles to find an explanation for that. So I know you see some red here. After that, that's your 24th of October bottom, right, according to the eclipse cycle. Top here on the 18th of October, and then bottom on 24th of October. That's by the eclipse cycle. However, because of this invalidation here that we're getting today, I need to look at different cycle. Why do I have invalidation here? Look at that. If you put a horizontal line, all of this is green for 4 previous cycles. That is quite a lot. Quite a big percentage of green for the past 4 cycles. That's 100% green for the past 4 cycles. And suddenly we're getting a red candle. Where is that coming from? Okay. We come back to the Chinese cycle. That is why I have developed this cycle. Look at that. All of this time that I have invested in developing the Chinese time frame cycle. There must be a reason for that, because I'm seeking explanations when the eclipse cycle is not accurate. I want to know what is the alternative explanation, and here is the alternative explanation. Why the 15th is dumping today. If you draw a horizontal line, we see that we dumped very hard when we were on the same cycle in June. 17th of June is a very hard dump, is a dump same to the 15th of October. Not very hard dump, sorry. Where did we get that from? We look back from the beginning. 6th of October we made a top. The closest to that, if we want to understand on what Chinese cycle we are, because all of these columns are all the same cycles as ours, but how do we know which one is the closest one? We look back and we see on the 9th of June in 2025 we made a Bitcoin top only 1 day later than this top that we made on the 6th of October. Only 1 day later. Whereas if we compare it with the previous Chinese cycle, we actually made a top on the 14th of August. That's the equivalent to the 13th of October. We should be heading for a top, but we didn't. So clearly we're not following that cycle, and clearly we are following the 9th of June cycle. So because the top is very similar, so what I have done, I've taken a fractal from that. So this is the fractal from that. I have pasted it on this, and I have pasted it on a different, this is less busy, so you can see the fractal better on a different chart. So that is the equivalent of the 9th of June, right? This top that took place on the 6th of October is the equivalent to 9th of June. And then we see that this fractal is moving along quite accurately. Do you see that? Do you see that that blue line here on the 10th? Quite a sharp dump. So that's what predicted That is cycle number 2 that predicted the dump on the 10th of October. Cycle number 1 was covered in detail in the previous video, part 1. And here it is. Cycle number 2 is your Chinese astrology cycle. Big dump on the 12th of June. Big dump on the 10th of October. Exactly as the fractal is showing. Top on 6th of October. And that was the equivalent to a top on 9th of June. So we're clearly following that cycle. Another way we could have predicted that, no, possibly practically it was not possible to predict it, but my point is that at least now we understand where that dump and that crash came from. We are actually on the 10th 34 times by 60 days cycle. So we draw a horizontal line and we go back in history to examine any previous crashes in that time. Oh, the COVID crash on the 12th of March took place on the day of the wood tiger, only 2 days later than the day of the water rat when we got the crash on the 10th of October. Only 2 days later than that. So we are only 2 days short of this cycle complete, 34 times by 60 days. So how could that be possible to be predicted? It was impossible to be predicted. Like, how many times we have been on that cycle? All of these 34 times. All of these 34 times. Should I be telling people, oh, we expect a COVID crash, expect a big crash? No. That was a very big swing crash. Even on some of these occasions, we actually have made tops. In 2024, very near the Wood Tiger Day, we actually made a top on the 17th of, only a couple of days out, oh no, here, only 1 day after the Wood Tiger, we made a top. So the cycles have changed since then. And that is now, look, in December we made a top. And in August we made a top, right? But we're clearly not on that cycle. We are on the cycle that made the COVID bottom. That's your Wood Tiger Day here. Only 2 days before that cycle completed, we made a bottom again. And we are on the June. For practical reasons, we're no longer interested in that. I've taken a fractal from that and it's not accurate, from the COVID bottom. So I just had to give you the cycle. And for practical reasons, we benefit to know that we're following the June fractal. Here it is. Very clear, very clear. And what is it showing about the 15th? It's showing a dump on the 15th. So that's your explanation. That's why I run these cycles together. Here is the eclipse cycle. Everything should be green. But today is red, and immediately I know that if it's not the direction that the eclipse is predicting, then it must be the Chinese. They do converge. They're not as different as they look like on individual time frames, daily time frames. They look like they're different, but you will see that they do converge as well. Because look at that. The eclipse is saying 24th of October bottom, right? And the cycle, and the Chinese cycle is saying the 20th of October will be bottom. So that is only 10 days difference. It's only 4 days difference. It's not really a big difference. Because the bottom that was made on this cycle was 22nd of June, the swing bottom. And this time around, that is the equivalent to the 20th of October. But when I pasted the cycle, when I pasted the fractal it gives me the date 19th of October, which is confusing. That comes from I don't know, I need to sit down and check every single date, and it's quite fidgety, and I've got a lot of things to do. So just think that it's either gonna be 19 or 20th according to the Chinese cycle, that the bottom will be then either the 19th or 20th. And I'm keeping it here. It's getting quite busy here, both of them. So this is the Chinese cycle, the blue one, and then the yellow cycle is the eclipse that we're following now, the one that is a more realistic eclipse cycle. It's playing in the range. It's not as ambitious as that dark orange one that got invalidated. But I don't want to remove it, because every now and again they get accurate again, and then it's just too much work having to add it again. So just ignore these now. Clearly we're not following them, but we'll just keep an eye for the future. At the moment what we're following is the Chinese cycle, heading for a bottom on the 19th to 20th, and then we're following the orange fractal, which is the eclipse from October 2024, the last eclipse in the same season. Okay, so one is, interestingly, one is forecasting a top on 19th of October, and the other one is forecasting a bottom on 19th of October. One of them will be accurate, and I'm not making this up. People think, oh, she's giving all of these fractals, so she can be accurate on at least one of them. No, that's not my intention. My intention is to actually be accurate, to identify pivots. But if the cycles are going in the opposite directions and they're saying opposite things, what can I do? These are real cycles, they're not made up cycles. It's an awkward year, and I remember the year of the snake 2013 was a very awkward year. Convoluted, nothing was like straightforward. The way the snake curves when it walks, it never walks in a straight line, it always makes curves. That's exactly this whole year. Every reasoning has to be intricate, and actually that is why the snakes are very suitable to make jewelry, to be actors, to be singers, because that is very high kind of level of craftsmanship and detail and attention and care to detail and technical skills. And the year of the snake is forcing us to go in that direction, to polish our technical skills and our refinement and discernment really to the max. It doesn't get more polished than the year of the snake. The snake and the opposite actually to the snake, the pig, are really the masters of technical detail. They're really interested to sharpen the skills in that direction. And I have said to my clients who have the personal financial forecast is that one of the biggest edge you can gain from Chinese astrology is you look at the character of the year, presumably that if you know what these zodiac signs mean, you look at the character of the year, you just know in advance where it's going to be pushing you. So I'm very tired this year because it has pushed me so much to be developing these skills to very fine details. And but at least I knew it in advance that that's what's gonna be, because I remember how 2013 was. 2013 I had to also polish skills in that direction to be very detailed to the point of actually looking like craft. This is not really a slapdash kind of work. You just go and paste it from somewhere, you paste it here, and that's it, you get a pivot. This is just requires millions of cycles to be calculated, then it requires very patient reflection, as I showed you in the previous video how difficult it is to reflect on that table there, about table number 6, the table that gives us the phi values and how the eclipse reaches us. It's also all very intricate thinking that requires a lot of silence. That's the nature of the snake. The snakes are not loud people. They're very quiet people, and they're very deep thinkers. So that's why this year is very difficult, because broadly speaking, the human brain doesn't like thinking, because we are not economically effective in terms of all the energy that we need for our processes, for the thinking processes to take place. We need hell of a lot of energy in the brain. We don't have that power. Our processing power is very, very small of our brains. That's why people don't like thinking in general. We evidence that everywhere. There is no brain that likes thinking, because thinking is not cost efficient. That's not my opinion, by the way. That is my background is psychology and neuroscience, and that's what we have studied on my degree course, that the energy that is required by the brain to perform thinking functions is not easily available to the brain. We need to be eating fat all the time to be making it easy for those neurons to fire. It's certainly not easy, and that's why majority of the people avoid it. Okay, so it's been a very difficult year for that reason. That's why all of us are feeling exhausted, because this trend line is playing chess, really. This is polishing our skills to really play chess. It's been very intricate trend line. To start a bull year with a top, I mean, that in itself shows that a lot of thinking has to be done in that year, right? What is that bull year that starts with a top on 20th of January? In month number 1 of the year, we're starting with a big top, ATH. I mean, what is that bull year that starts in that way? Clearly, that year was destined to be very difficult for us to figure out, and to be very difficult for us to understand. And that is our karma. In the year of the snake, we're forced to do that. We're forced to sharpen our thinking. We're forced to sharpen our skills, our technical skills, and to understand matters understand the intricacies in everything that we're studying. That things are not, understand the difficulties. That things are not simple, right? There are other zodiac years. When we enter them, everything there should be simple and straightforward. Like the year of the dog is exactly the opposite. The year of the dog hates details. Like Trump is a dog. The year of the dog gets things done, and the year of the dog deliberately likes to focus on simple matters. So, for example, he did manage to get that peace deal from them. Whereas everybody else who was focusing on the intricacies of the matter, they just couldn't get their shit together to actually get something done. So both of these approaches are useful, and that is why our human condition requires that with every year we get a different energy, and we develop harmoniously in every area. This year we're pressed to be developing intricacies and details. And if it's against your personality, then this year will be feeling very difficult for you, because you're just forced to think. And we're not eating that much fat that our neurons are requiring. What the brain requires, if we were putting that amount of food in our diet, what the brain wants will be extremely fat, all of us. And and when other years come, we'll be pushed to completely put all of these details aside and just get something done. Really, just move from A to B. That will be then the energy that is the boss of the year, and that's what it will want from us. And every year somebody is struggling with that energy. People who are not great at detail, they struggle this year tremendously. People who are leaders, they struggle in this year tremendously, because the leaders just want to cut all of that detail out and just make the big steps forward. And this year is not like that. Okay, so that is your prediction now by the most important cycles. We're either heading towards the bottom on the 19th or we're heading to a top on the 19th by the eclipse cycle. And the bottom on the 19th is by the Chinese astrology cycle, which we're following very clearly. Top here and then go down, and then this big blue, do you see the blue big candle down here? That's the only fractal that is showing that blue candle here. Red, I mean that big red, big dump, big heavy dump is showing by this fractal here. That is the June. So these are the two most important, guys. This fractal here was quite good. That projected a big bottom on the 13th. But at the end of the day, after that dump, it should be going up. Actually, somebody asked for that, and I still haven't had time to do it. So I'm very sorry. I haven't actually had time to do it. Maybe I'll do it in part 3. I want to close this video because these are we have to discern between detail and what is important. So I said what is important. I gave you the forecast for the two cycles that are the most important cycles. Is the yellow eclipse cycle. This is now back accurate, and the Chinese cycle. These are the most important. If I bring more detail into this, we're gonna get lost. We're gonna get lost in that detail. So that is why I'm closing this video, and then if I have time I'll make another video to explain to you. Somebody asked, they wanted to know what happens after that fractal, so I need to go into this and I'll record it in the next video if I have time. Bye for now.